In this video, we're going to be installing smart outdoor string lights from DeckTok. So for anyone that follows the channel, you know that I really do enjoy smart home lighting, and I've done quite a bit over the last few years. Earlier this year, we actually installed a ton of Govee stuff across the house and the yard, but an area that we did not light up was the deck around the pool. And as summer kicked in and we started swimming in the pool at night, we really started regretting not having some extra lighting on the pool. And the summer just flew by so quick, I didn't get an opportunity to put anything in, but we are gonna go ahead and tackle that now, so we're good to go for next year. DeckTok is a little bit of a newer brand in smart home lighting, but they seem to be starting out pretty strong. Rather than recreating things that have already been created, they seem to take existing ideas and improve upon them, and this is a great example of that. Much like the Govee smart string lights that we put around the driveway leading up to the house, these do have little bulbs every 2 feet or so on a string, and you can hang them from poles to help illuminate dark areas. There is an app and they do connect to the Wi-Fi. They are Alexa or Google Home compatible. But that little twist that they put on that I haven't seen anyone else do yet, they also have 9 little beads between each of the larger bulbs, and that just adds a little bit of flair, makes it look a little bit nicer, and it does light up the area a little bit better. So for this deck, it is about 100 feet the whole way around, so I'm gonna be using 2 50-foot kits. Install is gonna be pretty darn straightforward. It's a plug, a string. In our case, we do actually already have 4 poles installed for the sunshade. I'm just gonna attach them to those. So this is gonna be a really easy, really quick job. If you don't already have existing poles or something to mount them to, you can follow our Govee smart string light video where we show you how to put poles in the ground to attach the lights to, or you can attach those poles to your decking in order to give the lights something to hang from. We'll go ahead, get these installed, show you guys how to connect to it, and give you an overview of the app. Something that I forgot to mention earlier is price difference here. Now, these string lights are actually priced pretty aggressively at just about $55 right now shipped, whereas the Govee string lights that I put up earlier this year are right around $90. Now, they obviously do run sales, both DeckTok and Govee, so pricing will vary a little bit, but it's definitely something to consider. Now, the app that you want is called DeckTok, and it is available for both iPhone and Android. When you first plug in, it should start flashing. If it doesn't flash, you can just hold down to the power button, and it will start flashing, and that will allow you to sync. So you go ahead and hit Add Device. And you see both of ours just popped right up. So we can go ahead and click on the first one there. Now you're gonna go ahead and connect to your Wi-Fi, and it does need to be a 2.4. Type in your password and hit next. And we do have both successfully added. Now you can change the name here. Just push that little pencil there in the corner, and you can change this to whatever you want. I'm just gonna do Pool Deck Lights 1 and Pool Deck Lights 2. We'll go ahead and hit done. And now you can click into the first one here. It is going to ask you how many bulbs are on the lamp itself. Now you are counting the large bulbs, not the LEDs in between. So in this case, it is 15. Now on this screen here, you can actually change the colors to whatever you want, and everything will be that color on that input. And you do have 2 different ways of choosing. You have the gradient scale here, and then you do have the little blocks where you can get a little bit more exact on the color that you're looking for. And next up, you do have your scenes. Now this is where all those pre-programmed modes are. And this app feels very much like Lumery and XMKazi in the way that it flows. So you do have all of these preset sceneries, and there's quite a few. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see it's definitely an easy way to get you going right away. You got scenery, life, festival, mood, and there's quite a few within each of those that you can try out. I kind of like DIY. If you're familiar with the Blue Ghost controller, it feels very much like that, in where you can create your own modes. You have all of these preset modes, and then within each of them, you can choose different styles and different animations, adjust the speed, choose the colors and how many colors that you want and what colors you want them to be. And once again, you can switch back and forth between the different style of palette choice. You can change the brightness of each color individually, and then you would just hit preview and it will let you see that show mode that you've created. I really like the rainbow with red and green for this time of year. It has a pretty nice little subtle shift to it that works well with the rest of the lights that I have going. But obviously, depending on the time of year and different events that might be happening, I can always go in here and change that and make it a different color. But with autumn right now, this just seems very fitting. So we'll go ahead and hit save. I'm just gonna call this sunset. Up next, you do have the music modes here where you can do different styles of response to input. So it could be response to music or anything else that might be playing in the background. And now that does require your phone input for it to get a microphone. There is not a microphone on the controller itself. And then you can do timers. Now timers are something that I will set just like I do all the other lights out here, and that will enable you to have them turn on at a certain time of day, turn off at a certain time of day. That way you have lighting at night and you have it off during the day. Now if we go up to the top right corner, you'll see a pencil icon, and you push on that. That's going to take us into settings here. And this is where we can sync up to any Amazon or Google Home devices if we want to. We just go ahead and go in here. I'm going to sync up to my Amazon. And just like that, I have it set up to sync, so I can use voice activation to activate lights, turn off lights, or anything like that. Now another area in here that I am going to use is to create a group, and that's going to allow me to control both devices as one, and I'm just going to call that pool deck lights. And it's going to ask me again how many are in there. We're still going to put 15, even though it is 2, so technically it's 30 total. It is 2 sets of 15, so we're just going to do 15. Now I can go back in here, the same deal. You have all of your scenery, and you can choose one and it will flow them together. So it does look pretty uniform and it seems to be matched pretty well. But in this case, I'm going to go back in here and do another DIY scene. I'm going to do that same rainbow with that same green and red, and set that speed right back up there at about 83 and hit preview. And that's the current theme that I'm going to run right now. And there we go. So it is set. Anytime I want to run it, I can do that. I can create a timer in here for that. I'm going to go ahead and say that at 7, I'm going to set it to 6 p.m. every day. I'll have it turn on, and then I'll have to create a turn off time. I'm going to set that to 6:30 a.m. And the action I want to perform is close. Close is going to turn it off. So now I've created a timer and currently running that sunset. So that's the basics of the app, but obviously you could sit here for hours and just play with the different modes and create your own. So when it does say 78 modes, you do have the DIY section, which theoretically means you could create any number of modes, an innumerable number of different show modes that you could create yourself using those presets. So once again, if you're familiar with something like the Blue Ghost controller, it's very similar to that in that you can go in and create your own modes using templates and then changing the colors and speed according to what you want the lights to look like. So pretty flexible in that and what you can do. You know, obviously you do have your music mode, which is pretty cool, just keeping in mind that you do have to have your device connected to the controller to activate it and respond to input. But it definitely did what we were looking to do out here on the deck. It'll look great next summer when we get the pool back open, and should allow us to have some swim time out here a little bit later at night. And one thing that's really cool about LED lighting like this is it doesn't really attract bugs. So in the middle of the summer, at least in this area, now we're not deep down in Florida or anywhere where it's extremely humid, but around here we don't really have a ton of bugs with this kind of lighting. When you go traditional halogen, those bugs are really attracted to that, so it does actually make it a little bit more difficult to be outside during those times. But with the lighting like this, it just effectively lights up the area without attracting all of that. So that's another big plus to this style over others. So time will tell, but I will say initially speaking, comparatively, you can see the Govee string lights in the back there. These very much feel like the same thing, but with the 9 individual LEDs between each, which is a very nice upgrade. Obviously the app is different, and that is something that you do have to factor in when deciding what you want to go with. You know, if you're already within that Govee family group, it may make sense to try to stick with that. But if you're familiar with Lumery and some of the other apps, this is very much the same feel as those, so you'll be right at home with that. Also, definitely consider that price point. These were far cheaper than what the Govee equivalent would have been. And that definitely should be taken into consideration when deciding which direction to go. And obviously time will tell. I'll say I've had the Govee installed for quite a while. I did have some issues with one of the connections. One of the waterproof barrel connections on the Govee, it seemed like it got a little bit of water inside, and I had to try to clean it out, and I was able to put it back together, and I haven't had another problem since. But it just gives you an example where you can have issues with any of this stuff, and you definitely have to keep that in mind. DeckTok support has been great. They have reached back to me with any questions that I had and responded pretty quickly, so that is a plus. I've heard some negatives about Govee's response time. I myself have not had those same issues, but everyone's experience will likely be different. If you were looking to get some string lights to put in your backyard, I would definitely check it out. I'll have a link in the description for this video.